So I'm Gavin Shelton and I'm the founder of CoFarm. The more you look at biodiversity loss and the more you look at climate change, and in fact the more you look at health inequalities as well, actually sitting at the heart of that is our food system and how we organise it, how we distribute food, how we produce it. So really CoFarm is a kind of an attempt to try and address some of those problems that our food system causes in a way that's really positive and optimistic and tries to tackle them in a holistic way. Can you use food and farming as a way of actually bringing people together to create more community cohesion, both in terms of producing it but also enjoying the harvest together as well and eating it together?
I'm Dominic Walsh. I'm one of the managers at CoFarm Cambridge. When we first came on the site was full of ragwort, full of thistles. Having been used for agriculture in the past, it was rather used up. There was very little nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium. What we first of all did was on the west side, where it's much more clay, we planted the leguminous crops, which would nitrify the soil, but also ones such as the vetches, which have larger roots which will break up the clay. We grow masses of flowers on site for our pollinators and beneficial insects around all the margins of the growing area, and all of our birds as well. We have large flocks of greenfinches here and goldfinches. They come in. They also encourage the larger predatory birds, which deter the pigeons, which are a real problem to us.
My name's Peter Rapson and I'm one of two farm managers. It's a job share here at CoFarm. So when we first came to the site, we'd already decided essentially what we were going to grow. The idea behind that being that there's a nice variety of stuff for people and there wouldn't be any gaps. We'd also did a lot of successional sowing of stuff so that we knew, for instance, we'd have beetroot from early July right through to December, that kind of thing. Especially as it was our first year, if we tried a bit of everything, we would get a measure of the site, work out what works well, what doesn't work so well. We knew we were going to manage it organically, i.e. Without recourse to pesticides or herbicides, where we're bringing in beneficial pollinators, beneficial predators, and also simply by using barriers, things such as mesh and netting to keep pests off. Net that's fine enough not to let cabbage white butterflies lay their eggs through. It comes in different grades, but the finest one will even keep out allium leaf miner and carrot fly, etc. So that would be the way to go ultimately for keeping those kind of pests out.
We also have deployed about 1,000 ladybirds. We've also put up lacewing boxes where the females of the green lacewing can then hibernate over winter and be ready for when the whitefly start breeding. We have planted a 1,000 tree hedge line around the 2-acre site, all of which were mycorrhizal dipped because the mycorrhizal gives water and nutrients to the trees and forms this network within the soil. Also, we planted 117 fruit trees, most of which are heritage fruit trees, which we've also mycorrhizal dipped to give them a good start.
It's a very windy site, but one of the first things we did was to plant a hedge all the way around. So yeah, growing sweet corners, windbreak. We've got various lines of globe artichokes as well on site, and so in the spring when they're at their leafiest, they provide sort of good protection against the wind. But ultimately, yeah, we need the hedges to grow.
You've got, in our case, 350 volunteers who put lots of time and energy into this piece of land. One, we don't actually really have to use any very much mechanised machinery at all. Everything we do is just using hand tools. But we also don't have to apply any inputs to that land as well, because there's so many people to help us in that process of managing pests on the land as well. So there's a kind of double win there really. We've had about 10 tonnes of produce which we've harvested off the site, 55 different varieties of fruit and vegetables, and all of that produce has been donated to 9 emergency community food hubs as part of the COVID response effort in the city. And we've done that in collaboration with the City Council, Cambridge City Council, and with our friends and partners at Cambridge Sustainable Food. We're working with a number of different research partners who are looking at different aspects of the outcomes that we're trying to bring about. So that's kind of part of the way that we're planning to scale up the CoFarm model as well, is by providing access to all of those different research areas so that it makes it easier for anyone who wants to set up their own co-farm. So in the case of biodiversity and natural capital, we have schemes like ELMS coming online soon, which should enable us to be able to draw down funds, but also hopefully future schemes as well that look at kind of how farming and access to green spaces can contribute to increases in health and well-being. We've had a huge amount of interest from different community groups, from local authorities around the country who are interested in adopting the model, but also lots of interest from farmers who are potentially thinking about co-farming as part of their diversification strategy for the farm, and as a way of kind of engaging with the local community, providing support for their local community. That's something that we'd really love to hear from more farmers that want to adopt the model on their holdings.